We're back on the record. Aaron Daniels, Coach Jack Reavis. A lot of people don't know this, or maybe you do, but either way, he's going to shed some light on them. Now, we've covered ground with Coach Reavis, the educator. We've covered a lot of ground with Coach Reavis, the coach. Tell us about Jack Reavis, the politician. Yeah.
Well, I'll say I'm a Democrat first, so some people may have just turned the computer off right there. Politician. I don't know if I like those words yet or not.
Oh, please set me straight. Set me straight.
The reason I've become involved in that, our system of government first requires people to run for office. And people forget that, I think, that, well, they always ask, well, why are you running? Well, we need people to run. If you want to fly, if you want to get in an airplane, you need a pilot. I mean, our form of government requires people to run for office. And I want to remind people of that. I think most importantly is that people need to have people that they can trust in that elected position, not to vote to party lines, even though you're elected through a party. But once you get there, it's like the president. You know, they run, and when they get into the office, you know, every morning they're briefed on global affairs. You know, the first thing that they're greeted with is the guy with the briefcase, you know, handcuffed to his wrist with nuclear codes. That's a heck of a way to start your day.
Oh, ain't it?
So,
shucks.
When you get there, though, you shouldn't change in here. And our former mayor, Mayor Hammonds, and we still talk, not as frequently as they did.
Right.
And that always, when we talked, and while he was in the mayorship, that, have you taken your first bribe yet? And he always said, Mr. Reavis, no. And he got into his, I think, second term, and he said, well, I just hadn't taken one. So in other words, that, you know, those things began to happen. And I think that's how that actually went. So he stayed true to himself. And as long as I do that, I think I'll be fine. Because I know if I ever get into the office, and I'm running for the District 9 Senate seat right now, that I will do a good job, because I won't change. And I will always have at my closest to my heart what's best for my constituents back home, and not let particularly the state influence get back here, because there are, and I'll use the Oklahoma State Chamber of Commerce, they do good work, but they I think heavily corporate minded, and their interests may not be the same interest as back here in Muskogee and in Tahlequah, which the District 9 covers. And I'm not talking bad about them, but what is here is important to us. And those two entities may clash at times, but to stay true to what's right here, which will not always be supporting, you know, what's good for the corporate world, because Oklahoma is still eclectic. We have really two major metropolitan areas, Tulsa and Oklahoma City. Then we get into rural, kind of urban areas outside of that, right. And those interests are different. You know, so what may be really good for those two major areas may not be to our best interest here locally. Absolutely. I certainly support the revitalization of downtown Muskogee. I think Tahlequah has done a beautiful, excellent job at recreating themselves downtown. Now, they've had a lot of help from the Cherokee Nation and Northeastern State University, which I'm a proud alumni of.
Hey, salute.
Get a plug in from my home there. But in Muskogee, there's no reason why we can't do the same thing. I know there's there's large chain stores coming in, which is good, but any complete package, has to have a downtown plan. And there's some young, like Nick, he owns the what's the coffee shop? Just went brain dead. Early Rush Coffee Shops.
Okay.
I think he's helping bring new life and energy to the downtown area, and we just need more people like that, because a solid downtown, revitalized downtown, first of all, it keeps the history of the city alive, and we have some beautiful older buildings downtown, and they need to be taken care of. but also it's still a sense of pride of where we come from and where we're going to. I would always, protect those things. But also, I think a lot of people don't really realize just how pro-business I am. And Democrats kind of take a shot on that, and being unmoralistic and things like that. I'm certainly very pro-life. I own my own weapons. I would not ever vote or support a measure that would take away that right, because I think that's something that I don't think will happen in my lifetime or the near future. But business is the hub of everything.
Right.
And I've been in private business with other people. And even though Walmart may be the nation's largest employer, the mom and pop stores still employ 75% of everybody in the country. And those what needs to be addressed, their needs, because they're not large enough really to provide health care. There needs to be affordable health care for people working like down at Magic Walk. I love to go talk to Steve. He is from Asia, and wonderful story. If you ever get a chance, go down there and talk to him. He's a great person. And he has employees, but there's not affordable means to give them health care.
Right.
And that really needs to be addressed, because a common everyday working person, AD, can't afford to get sick.
Yeah.
In America.
That's true.
And that's middle class.
Mm-hmm.
That's us, and I would certainly always work towards, supporting business and supporting affordable health care.
There you go.
As a politician.
All right. Now, fortunately or unfortunately, when it comes to this grind, you're having to campaign, and you've been through that. And a guy like you that I've grown to know, and I mean this in a good way, what you see is what you get, and that's one of the biggest reasons that I respect you, because I never had to wonder what your motive is. And when it comes to something like campaigning, I don't necessarily attach a person like you to that. So how do you go about laying out the plans or selling yourself, if you will, to the masses?
I was told this last summer. I think it was Representative McPeak told me this, and he's from District 13. He's got the west side of Muskogee.
Right.
He said, Jack, he said, people either love you or they don't, because the people that love you, they like what you said, and the people that kind of don't love you, you didn't say what they wanted to hear. And I'm like that.
Yeah.
And
I agree.
that's a good thing, and that can be a bad thing out on the road.
Right.
I think I've kind of worked on that some, but I'm not good at, because it doesn't come from here, of trying to be somebody that I'm not. And any pastor, teacher, principal, president, politician can't be all things to all people.
Right.
There's some yin and yang to all that. And I try not to misrepresent myself, out, talking at meetings. I'm very honest. Sometimes I think I go into too much depth too quickly and lose people, which kind of puts a question mark in their mind. And that's just something, personally as a campaigner, I've worked on and gotten a lot better at. But sometimes less is more when you're actually in campaign mode. And if somebody asks you a question that delves off into some detail, to say, well, see me after the meeting and we'll have dialogue.
There you go.
But I've learned that if I don't curtail the detail, I can lose voters or put that seed of doubt in their mind. Not on purpose.
Right.
Because it wouldn't grow, but I don't have the chance to follow up with the detail after the meeting's over, because there's so many people there. So they leave that meeting with some question marks.
Right.
Because once they get to know me, and Mr. McPeaks also told me this too, that he said, the more somebody gets to know you, the more they like you.
There you go.
And I think that's a true statement with me.
Mm-hmm. I would agree with that too. But I liked you right off the bat, so it's all good. Now, talk about how your family, how have they been impacted throughout this journey, whether positively or negatively?
Well, first of all, I've always asked him first when I have considered running. And without their blessings, I would not do that, because you run as a family, particularly without the support of my wife, Laura, because it'd be impossible for me to do this. So their blessings are necessary first. The Madison complains about me being gone all the time, but and she's right. I mean, she's right. It is hard on the family, and I think that transcends both parties because there's a great amount of time that you spend away, and I'll use the word suffer. It has consequences on the family because it takes away from the amount of time, dinner time, the time that just communication, and the times that you do communicate has to be very direct, generally very quick,
right.
but you have to be accurate, and it's not done with a lot of emotion or caring, which that bothers me because it gives my children and my wife, Laura's better at it than Mariah and Madison. They get that I'm kind of cold and indifferent when I just really have to take care of business and make sure I know where they're at and they know where I'm at, but without, it's just a quick hug and you're gone.
Right.
There's no, and women being more verbal than men, it kind of grades on them, and I understand that.
Another very interesting thing about you that I've always respected about you and Laura both is you mentioned your daughter Mariah, and she is autistic, am I correct?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
All right. Talk about that plight of having to deal not with your daughter, because that's not a problem, but dealing with autism. Would you shed some light on just what all that plight entails?
This may be difficult for me to get through this.
Take all the time you need, Coach.
I can see where weak marriages can fail with a child that has autism or handicapped. I will say first that Mariah is very high functioning, but she suffers from a spectrum of autism, and when that wall is hit, it's hit, and trying to determine where the young lady that's developing, that's in this normal spectrum, and where the autistic spectrum kicks in, it's gray area, and because you really don't know if it's a true, just a normal developmental issue within the normal cognitive mind, or it is the autism that's causing it. And we deal with that. She's in her third semester at Northeastern State University, been successful, and it's still, she has difficulty with that rote memorization and the rigidness of just, it's very hard to discipline herself to do something over and over and over again, which that type of learning in general ed courses that's what you do. Emotionally, I'm not proud of myself as a father because I've done things out of frustration, said on occasion things that would not good for her growth, emotionally or spiritually, and I deal with that. But I'm sure anybody that has a special needs child has gone through feelings like that, and so they're not everyday occurrences, but they have occurred. That makes me want to be a better father, because it is frustrating, because when she's in that mode, she's stuck, and she knows it. She's at the age now where she's self-aware of the situation, but doesn't have the tools really to get herself out of that. And as a parent, that's heartbreaking, absolutely crushing at times. The structure that a school schedule provides for her and her work schedule, like she will show up 15 minutes, 20 minutes for class because she knows she's supposed to be there, and a snowstorm and a whale couldn't keep her from being there. And the same thing with work. The rigid schedule is very good for her. And she's a great employee. She works at research right now over in the video department. And she loves that job because my two oldest daughters, Ashley and Bailey, worked there. And then I met Laura there, her mother.
A little history in that area.
Definitely so. And Research is a local homegrown company. And then they provide hundreds of jobs in the Telco area, and now they branched out into Tulsa. But anyway, to her, it's her dream job. And she said, well, I just might meet that special one. She told me that. I thought, oh my gosh.
Talk about things coming full circle.
Definitely so, definitely so. But outside of that structure, an autistic person has the organizational skills are not there in some areas, and we still work with her, daily on organization. Checkbooks have been a disaster at times, but it's just a learning curve, which is hard to do sometimes because, and I'm probably better at this than Laura about being rigid about daily schedules with Mariah, and because Laura is kind of like Mariah in that way, and Laura has the God-given ability to let things kind of pile up, and then she can go wipe them out really quick. Where I'm just the opposite. I have to kind of methodically plod through it, and get it done.
Bit by bit, huh?
Bit by bit. And Laura's about opposite on me on that. But with Mariah, and I kind of wind up being the bad guy sometimes, or most of the time, because you need to do this. And there is a difference between punishment and discipline. Mm-hmm. And to develop the discipline, it's an autistic person really lacks that in some areas of his or her life. And that's a challenge. That's a daily struggle because it doesn't go away. Yeah. But I'm glad that God gave her to us because she might not be the person she is without us today, and vice versa, because she's helped us grow as a couple.
Absolutely. I appreciate you being so candid, Coach. That's great. That's great stuff. Now, to put a bow and a ribbon on this one, Coach, tell me, man, there's a reason why this guy is who he is. Your hobbies. What does Coach Reavis do for fun when it's personal time, away from the business, you're out of the realm of politics, you're out of the classroom, you're out of the gym for volleyball and basketball? What do you do to entertain yourself and make some time pass?
I fix broken stuff.
Is that right? Fix a rubber too, another hat.
I work around the house. I like working with wood.
Okay.
And when I was in 7th grade, I was looking forward to going to wood shop. Okay. And I dreamed about it. And my dad wouldn't let me go to shop or take shop class. I think I was the only male in the 7th grade that wasn't enrolled in shop because he was afraid I'd chop a finger off.
Legitimate concern.
Yeah, as a parent, that's very true, very true. But on the flip side of that, I caught a lot of flack for not being in shop also. That was a male thing to do.
There you go.
In that time period. And but anyway, I do like to work with woods. I got an old Mercedes I've got that I'm slowly kind of restoring a bit, and but I do have several guitars and some recording equipment at the house that I turn on when nobody's at the house if they don't know I'm actually recording. But and I do still continue to write. I have written poetry that won several awards and. Over in Tahlequah, and I have one that's actually in the Library of Congress, I believe. It's been too far back. I forgot exactly what it is. But also, I like to eat good food and share good company with that. And believe it or not, I like to float underwater and look upside down, look up through and see the sky. It's pretty neat.
Every time I try to do that, I'll get to choking, man. I got to work on that.
I do enjoy swimming, but also as a child, though, I learned to swim in the Baron Fork Creek over on the east side of Tahlequah, and that's back when it was extremely clear and really cold, and it's changed over the years. But some of my fondest memories is snorkeling and looking at the sunfish and the perch. And any time that I get frustrated with life, I imagine still being 8 years old and going off into the deep part of the creek and just watching the fish. And I could be in a classroom or anything like that and still see that. So and to me that's kind of a hobby. It's a recreational hobby that relieves stress. Because also it was safe too, though. And I remember the warmth of the sunlight that filtered through from the top, and still makes me feel good today.
There you go. Coach Reavis, my man. If you would, let the American public know when the next time is that we can catch the volleyball team in action.
We will be at home next Thursday night against Bartlesville. Then next weekend, we actually have our MHS women's volleyball tournament here on the Muskogee campus and also Bacone campus. And hopefully we'll come away with the trophy on that.
All right. Well, if you're doing anything, shove those plans aside and come on out and support the Lady Ruffers as they're in action next week. Once again, I'm your host, Aaron Daniels. This is Teacher of the Year, two-time Teacher of the Year, Mr./Coach Jack Reavis, and we'll see you guys the next time. This is On the Record.